Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back to Wall Street Silver. Joining us today is my good friend Tavi Costa, partner and portfolio manager at Crescat Capital. Welcome back, Tavi.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this as well. It's such a huge pleasure having you on. There's so much excitement happening right now in the gold and silver space and the markets. These incredible moves that are happening, and everyone has their eye on it. I wanted to get you on to let's start off with silver. These incredible moves. What do you think is happening? Where are we going from here?
No, it's a good chart I was looking at. Silver is really the same thing as looking at gold prices adjusted for inflation. And gold adjusted for inflation is also still hasn't really made new highs. And when you think about that from that perspective, really silver is just starting, or gold is just starting to move ahead of inflation now once again. And so this is why silver is having such a large rally. But when you put into perspective as well, going back to history, gold itself is up close to 40 plus percent from the 2011 highs that it did back in those days. Silver is still down about 30% from those levels. So there's definitely a big difference and a big catch up for the metal to do. And I do think that's coming. But that's really, the lagging gold is moving ahead of a lot of things. And I think there's a lot of meaning to that move as well.
Hmm.
Probably inflation is coming. Usually gold tends to move ahead of inflationary moves. And so I wouldn't surprise me if we see other metals and other types of commodities also being pushed a lot higher. And I think silver is going to be one of them as well.
Absolutely, you nailed it. Do you think the gold is really like what you were saying, is sniffing out a recession that is maybe is already here, but hasn't been, talked about in the mainstream media? But do you think gold is sniffing out all these troubles that the USD is going to have to face in the upcoming months or even years? And then another question on following that, for silver, is it always going to be, I guess, the one that's following behind gold, or now and since Friday, are we seeing it break off from gold and really take off? Yeah, what do you think?
I definitely am of the view that this silver is tends to actually outperform gold in a large way. It
Right.
tends to not lead gold a lot of times, and so this is kind of normal. And it's, we heard the same thing about the mining industry, right? Some folks coming out and saying that the mining companies are never going to follow gold prices, which has been, horribly wrong and view, and now we're seeing the back of these metal prices at much higher levels. If you remember, I think September 22, I believe the Wall Street Journal had gold loses reserve status on one of their headlines on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. That not only marked the bottom, but if you think about it, we're about over $1,000 higher in gold prices,
Right.
and the cost for mining has not gone up from those times. And so
Right.
those margins have improved quite drastically, and they're not reflecting yet on share prices because of the overly conservatism of most analysts showing what they think is going to be the earnings of most of the mining industry, the mining companies. And so, I'm not sure. I think I view that as an opportunity. Now, going back to your question of what really gold really means, what is reflecting.
Are you seeking a secure, truly offshore solution to protect your wealth? Whether you're invested in gold, silver, or other precious metals, strategic wealth preservation is the strategic storage choice. Located in the Cayman Islands, SWP offers a state-of-the-art 6,000 square foot facility, purpose-built to safeguard your assets with unparalleled security and privacy. Why choose the Cayman Islands? This premier jurisdiction has zero taxes on stored precious metals, no reporting requirements, and complete peace of mind, making it the ideal solution for investors looking to diversify internationally. At SWP, your metals are fully segregated, allocated, and insured. You can buy online or in person. Plus, SWP has a dedicated logistics team that facilitates the global transportation of your precious metals from almost anywhere in the world. Learn more about SWP and how they can help secure your precious metals offshore. Visit swpcayman.com or call them today, and the link will be in the description below. Thanks.
I think it really reflects a Fed that is not capable of preventing inflation from rising. It's actually going to have to reduce or find reasons to reduce interest rates on the back of inflation likely reaccelerating.
Right.
And elections could play a role into this. Potentially what we can see out of elections could actually reignite inflation in a large way. And it's not to say inflation hasn't been around us, it has been around us, but the reacceleration that I mean is sort of that growth type of consumer prices that we saw back in 2021 is likely to come back. And
Yeah.
if we see that, I do think gold is signaling potentially that, and the Fed not being able to do anything about it. And that's how can you keep hard assets of where they are? I mean, they're probably going to go a lot higher. So it's very exciting for those that have been not only talking about this, but also investing in the space for a while and positioning for such a, what I view one of the most important moves of this decade.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a very important move, and I feel like this is the move everyone has been waiting for years. And you know, it's crazy because you're starting to see the U.S. economy start to deteriorate. You're seeing the U.S. dollar start to weaken. Everything's getting more expensive, and silver is just making these incredible moves. Do you think that it has a lot to do with shorts being covered or deficits, silver deficits? What do you think is happening there for these massive moves, Tavi?
I am sure there's some of that, and I'm sure also there's a lot of the supply issue because, I mean, we own a large silver mine ourselves, and I can tell you it's not easy to find silver. It's a very difficult, challenge to overcome, and so clearly we're not seeing enough new discoveries of silver, and certainly that is also reflecting on the prices. I believe last time I checked, Peru and Mexico production had been, I don't know, 20, over 20 years levels, relative to where they are currently. So it is a little shocking to see that. And if you think about it, have we seen much, too big of a move for silver already? Well, put into perspective, what's the gold to silver ratio right now? It's about 80.
Oh,
It
that's
just
still that's still high.
it actually just dropped slightly below 80 today.
Oh,
And when you
geez.
think about that, okay, what was it in prior major bottoms? Think about '08, for instance. Remember that
What was, oh
crash?
wait, was it 50 or 60 to 1?
It was 84 at that time. So it's very
Oh,
close to where it's now. Where it
okay.
was back in 2003 or so after the tech bust when everything came down and then silver actually bottomed and started going a lot higher. Well, silver, the gold to silver ratio peaked at about 83. So we're right around that. And
Wow.
so if you think about this, put into the perspective, and we just haven't seen anything yet. And if gold goes to 35, 4,000, who knows? Then what does that mean if we go back to 40 ratio? But do
Wow.
that math. I mean, we could see stupid prices here. So I think that the key is to try not to be too cute about these moves. And there's going to be a lot of volatility. Things are going to get overbought. They're going to get oversold. But the direction, in my view, is much higher, much higher. And
Yeah.
that's, if you're owning businesses that have those margins and high quality assets, yeah, that's probably where the money is going to come from.
Absolutely. Do you think a lot of silver mines are going to be popping up as silver prices go up, or like because it'll be more viable for them to run? Or what's your take on that? Because I've had a lot of guests this week saying, even if silver prices go up, then you're not going to have a silver deficit so much of an issue because more silver mines will come up. What's your take there?
Well, I actually think copper has more of a sensitivity aspect to prices than silver itself. Now, copper, there's enough copper in the world, which is something a lot of people, I think it's a contrarian view.
Right.
That doesn't mean I'm long copper, and I think copper could do a lot higher, but copper prices go a lot higher, a lot of deposits that are not economic today will become economic. Silver is a separate story, and I disagree with that opinion because yeah, we may see on the margin things change, but it's not enough to say there's going to be a surplus of supply that will cause prices to come down. And that's the beauty of the metal, and it's the reason why
Right.
it tends to be monetary like gold, because there isn't enough. There's a reason why. Well, copper was used as a monetary metal too in the past, but silver has been more prominent than copper potentially, and gold is certainly the king of them all.
Hmm.
And all of them are probably going to do very well. And I don't want to be picking and choosing which one, but I'm just saying the
Yeah.
sensitivity aspect from a supply standpoint for copper is a little bit worse than for silver. And so I would say that um, one thing we may see that is interesting is that a lot of the junior companies will probably try to attract capital from investors by changing their names using silver. It was something, this is very likely to happen. Something we haven't
What,
seen
but
it
that's
yet, but
but that's
yeah.
not good for the
No,
average
it's not,
investor.
but it will happen anyways.
Right.
Regardless if you like it or not.
Right.
It's unfortunate, but a lot of companies that have a large element of copper or other metals, zinc, lead, in their deposits, but they have a small percentage of silver or a
They'll
relatively
just call
small,
themselves a silver company.
they'll call themselves a silver company. And,
Right.
to a certain degree, I don't want to get, again, too cute here, but some of them are right. If silver prices are 50, 70, $100 an ounce, they might be majority of their metals might be in silver. But yeah, I'm just saying that we haven't
Yeah.
even seen that part of the market move yet. So
Yeah.
there's a lot to change.
And we haven't even seen like we're just seeing a little bit of excitement, but we haven't even seen the majority of public or investors move from AI stocks to precious metals, which I believe is coming. Do you believe that day will come where you're going to see a majority of stock investors like move away from meme stocks, move away from AI, and go straight into precious metals?
I think we'll see something along those lines. I
Right.
don't know if it's going to be like the technology. We have to agree that the technology movement has been probably one of the biggest we've seen in history and the longest, right? I mean, it's
Right.
been a very, um, I guess, sustainable over time and backed by a lot of earnings and free cash flow created, especially by the large companies, not the smaller ones. So there's a difference there. What I think will happen here, first and foremost, is that mining as an industry will be seen as critical. It's
Right.
something that's not happening yet. So if you think about back, I think I said this maybe in the interview with you last time I was here. The investment in the mining space used to account by about 20% of GDP back in the 1960s.
Now it's
Today
like what, 0% or 1%?
is
Right.
0.3%.
Yeah, you
Okay,
did tell me
well,
that.
so if you think about that, what changed here? Okay, number one is, yeah, technology has advanced and you don't require as much capital as you used to. You don't require as much labor as you used to. But there is another big thing that changed is that we have become, as a country, the US and other developed economies have become largely dependent on imports of metals. Now,
Right.
I think that's going to change. I think that critical aspect of mining to create data centers, to bring back, manufacturing to the US,
Right.
onshoring, defense spending, you name it. All these things, back in the 40s or so, mining was critical. It was so critical they had to shut down things to allow workers to have enough metals for the war. I mean, that's
Wow.
how critical those things were back in those days. And now, it's not, actually it's the opposite, right? I mean, we actually see regulators and other folks bashing on the mining industry, which I think that's going to change in a big way. Uh,
Absolutely.
so that's going to be remarkable from an institutional standpoint. Imagine when that clicks with the institutions, and that's where the
Yeah.
capital come from.
Yeah, absolutely. When the institutions click and they're like, you know what, we need to immediately start getting these metals out and start getting these mines operating and going, then absolutely that switch will be massive. And that will be massive for every precious metal. I don't think it'll just be for silver and gold.
Yeah, it won't take, I mean, a crazy amount of capital. Of course, the longer they take to take an action like that, which is ludicrous not to do it, it
How much
takes.
capital do you think would need from institution investors to really start that switch to the mining industry?
It won't take much because if you think
Really?
about it, the industry overall is not worth a lot of money. So
Right.
it wouldn't take much capital actually.
Wow.
One large institution starting to make a big move would change everything. But what I was trying to say though is if you think about the clean energy space that has gotten a lot of attention and gotten a lot of capital from institutions, capital from subsidies from governments.
Right.
Think about that for a second. If you deploy, like I was, there are some mines in Alaska and other places that may require, I don't know, 10, $15 billion of capex to build this massive, deposits that today are not economic at those levels. But if they do want get subsidies, if the government, deploys 10 billion dollars or 12 billion dollars to help those companies to do something to secure metals for the future,
That'll
think
be
about that. I
huge.
mean, that would
Yeah.
be that's a big change. And $10 billion, I mean, how much you're spending in Ukraine?
Right, right, right. No.
Start putting that in perspective. It's really not a lot for something that actually is absolutely not to get political, but it's
Yeah.
absolutely critical for the country to run.
Yeah, it's absolutely critical for infrastructure, monetary, trade, everything, metals. You need that. You need the metals. But yeah, no, Tavi, I wanted to thank you so much for you coming down to Wall Street Silver. Every time you come down, it's a breath of fresh air and it's so much knowledge for everyone. So it's such a huge pleasure. I want to thank everyone for watching. Please like the video. And Tavi, where can people connect with you?
They can connect with me on Twitter at Tavi Costa, or they can also go to our website, crescat.net, where we share a lot of thoughts, ideas, and letters that are very in-depth about the macroeconomy. So, but thanks again, Ivan, for having me. I always appreciate coming here.
Yeah,
So
huge
thank you.
pleasure. And your LinkedIn. You didn't mention your LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, my LinkedIn. You just type Tavi Costa on LinkedIn, you'll probably find it. And if
Yeah.
you don't, I don't know, maybe it's for a good reason.
Awesome. Again, Tabby, it's such a huge pleasure, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.
Take care.